So long snapper out of necessity. They asked who can long snap essentially.
Yeah, it's one of those like we were sitting in fall camp. I was actually playing linebacker at the time, and Coach Rick was up there after practice one day, and he's like, "Our special teams coach." Back then we had two special teams coaches, and the what they would call the defensive special teams, which punt and kickoff return. Punt and kickoff. He was the linebackers coach. So like he'd been kind of chirping at me for the whole time. Like I heard you could, because my dad, when we went on the visits, my dad was like, "Oh, he can long snap." You know, I'm in my head like, "All right, well, I'm gonna play a real position, not play long snapper." And so after like one day at practice, I was like, "Yeah, I'm never gonna play a real position here, so I might as well figure it out." And one day after practice, Coach Rick was like, "Is there anybody who can long snap?" And me and another linebacker, we both raised our hands. We're both freshmen, and we were like, "We can do it." And I was pretty good back then. I was super raw in 2015. Yeah. It was like, I mean, you got to remember I played baseball, so I didn't long snap for like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. My last time I probably long snapped was 2010. So this is 2015. This was August 2015. So it had been right at 5 years, maybe even a little bit longer. And I was raw. I mean, I threw a decent ball back then. I was, super raw, like I said. And Coach Rick, liked what he saw, gave me a couple opportunities in fall camp, like during practice. But my freshman year, nothing shook. I didn't play any long snapper at all. Scout team offense. Played a little bit on when we played out of conference games. I played little special teams like kickoff return and punt return and stuff like that. And then it wasn't until my sophomore year that when Kirby came into Georgia, that I actually started to long snap, like not full time because I was still doing fullback and I was still playing kickoff return. But I was doing long snapping in practice on a daily basis. So I was starting to frequently attempt it. I was like, we had a guy got hurt, and then I had a chance to maybe play my sophomore year. Didn't practice so well one day, and ultimately lost the job to another guy. And he long snapped the whole season, but I still got to do it the whole year, kind of, while doing some other stuff. And then my junior year was when I officially moved full time to long snapping. No longer taking. I did fullback up until the season started, and then our starting long snapper got hurt in our last we did like a fall camp practice, like scrimmage kind of thing, and he got hurt, which is essentially 1 week before the first game. Yeah. So he gets hurt, the Saturday before our first game, and Coach Smart was like, "All right, you're done with offense. You're gonna long snap till he comes back." And then after he came back, I just, they didn't really see the need for me to move back to offense. And that was it. I played long snap for the rest of my way. My senior year, I played all 14 games my senior year, and here we are.
So, big question. What the hell do you do long snapping? And what exactly? I understand. I get it. You got to hike it. But
it's more of a.
What is the art?
So I would say a hike is what a center does.
Okay, that's a good way to change it.
So a hike would be like Tyler, what Linderbaum does. He just kind of shovel passes it back there with one hand. He's got way more responsibilities than snapping the ball, and he's got to tell the offensive line what to block, call the protection, all that stuff. So he's got a million things going on. Snapping is like the last thing that he's worried about.
Right.
Got to deliver a decent snap, but there's a lot of leeway at center. So that's a hike, or whatever you want to call it. And what we do at long snapper, it's much more specialized in the sense that I use two hands. So it's obviously technically it's very different than playing center. Mm-hmm. But also I'm expected to essentially deliver a perfect snap 100% of the time, and while simultaneously blocking
massive individuals coming right at you.
Yeah, like Myles Garrett or Aaron Darnold or Jadeveon Clowney or Christian Wilkins with the Dolphins.
A lot of small, unathletic guys charging at you.
They're easily stopped and movable people. So it's no big deal. And I think the art is you gotta. Better yet, what are some questions that you would have on long snapping? Because it's art. I could dive into some stuff, but
I think I think the art of it. I think when people look at it, I think some people think, wow, that's got to be that easy. I know it's not. Like you think like, oh, I just got to make a good snap.
Oh yeah,
And
my
that's-
teammates think that still, and until then, it's like, all right, well, you give it a shot because we got to have a backup
Yeah,
that is a position player that's on the roster that's active for the game.
yeah,
So it can't be like an actual long snapper
no,
because they're not going to waste a roster spot on 2 long snappers. You
no.
know? So we have like position player tryouts, and we've been very fortunate here in Baltimore for the last 8 years to have Nick Boyle, who wasn't actually a long snapper in college at Delaware, as well as a tight end. So he was like legit. So there was really no worries about it was going to be a long snapper if something happens in a game to Morgan or myself. And until now, Nick's no longer on the team, and there's a lot of worries because it's everyone's laughs. They're like, "Oh, it's no big deal," until it's like, "All right, it's your turn to go in front of the team with Harb standing right behind, right next to the punter or right next to Justin. Like no pressure. It's just practice, dude. You got this. No big deal." So it is funny because most people assume it's not very difficult.
Well, and the other part of it too, and that's why, and again, being a professional athlete, I don't care what position anyone plays in any professional sport.
Yeah.
To be the best of the best, or whatever you have to do with your craft, like just shit ain't easy. Like it's not,
No.
and especially there's a reason why Morgan Cox was around in Baltimore for as long as he is and was considered one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
So the point of it being is for special teams. I always looked at it was kickers get a lot of heat for missing kicks. We see that. There's a lot of pressure on.
Yep.
Guys' careers get ruined. They miss kicks. But just as much, if you have a bad holder and you don't have a guy that can deliver the ball first and foremost. Because if you don't do that, nothing else can happen.